It's your girl Ash, and I am back with another video, and today I'm going to be reacting to the most important race in NASCAR history deserves a closer look, the 1979 Daytona 500. If you guys would like to check out my other NASCAR reactions, the link is going to be up there somewhere. If you guys haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Hit that red button so you can be a part of the family. Don't forget to give your girl a thumbs up. Enough of me talking, let's get straight into this reaction.
And Dale Earnhardt, the rookie, coming up on the inside of him now. There's the kid to watch. This kid Earnhardt in the Australian number 2, the car out of California, the driver from North Carolina. Where will Cale make his move? He comes to the inside. Donnie Allison throws the block. Cale hits him. He slides. Donnie Allison slides. They drive into the turn. They're hitting the wall. They're head on the wall. Here they come. Waltrip trying to slingshot. Petty is out in front at the line.
I think that crash was in one of my videos.
There's a fight.
Oh, they're fighting. I think that crash was in one of the videos that I just did.
They're angry. They know they have lost. And what a bitter defeat.
On a cloudy and soggy mid-February afternoon down in Florida, one race changed everything in the NASCAR world. That day, 120,000 people saw a young upstart from Kannapolis, North Carolina, take the lead in his first ever run at the sport's biggest event, great beating and banging racing, an unbelievable last lap crash, and the sport's greatest driver add to his already unbeatable record. And thanks to a push by 2 CBS broadcasters, millions more bore witness to all of these events as well. And due to events happening outside of the track that day, this one race is likely the only reason why anybody outside of the Southeast even knows what NASCAR is in the first place. So let's turn back the clock and find out why this one single race was the most important race NASCAR has ever run in its history. Let's find out why this means so much, why this guy is so special, and why in the world is everybody at the track here today driving an Oldsmobile. What would end up being the most important race in NASCAR history almost ended up not happening at all. Rain had plagued the Daytona area all week, and there was even talk of postponing the race altogether and relegating it to Monday. However, the added pressure put on by CBS, doing the first ever live broadcast of a 500-mile race in television history.
So CBS wanted the drivers to go out there and race under those types of weather conditions, all for views. That's crazy. I mean, I understand that there's money, that's invested into these races, but that seems a bit dangerous, no?
Made the race go through on time. To keep everything running somewhat smoothly, the race begins under caution, as the first several laps would be run under yellow and drivers would report back what they thought of the track conditions. The fact that CBS is even here is a minor miracle in and of itself. Ken Squire, a veteran broadcaster and lover of motorsports, had been a staunch advocate of his employer getting more involved in racing. Joining him in the booth today is David Hobbs, a Brit who has competed in IndyCar and Formula One in the 60s and 70s, and even ran in the 1976 Daytona 500, driving Benny Parsons' backup car. The duo up in the press box had fought long and hard to get this race broadcasted, and that jury Sunday it looked like it would all go up in smoke. However, Mother Nature played along and let the race begin at its scheduled time. As the 41 starters test the track at a steady 70 miles an hour, our pole sitter, Buddy Baker, is the odds-on favorite to win it all today. He not only won the pole in his iconic Grey Ghost number 28, but he also won the first ever Busch Clash last week, and won his qualifying race, running an experimental setup to see how far they could push their Oldsmobile. And in the 125, it seems to have worked. He's been bad fast all throughout speed weeks, and looks to pull off the triple, winning the Clash, the qualifier, and the 500. To his outside is Donnie Allison. A long-running part-time competitor in the Cup Series, he's making his 10th attempt at the Great American Race today. He sat on the pole for the race before back in 1975, but today he feels especially confident in his car, even though he blew an engine in his qualifying race on Thursday. Thankfully, at the time, NASCAR didn't penalize engine replacements as a result of racing in the duels, so he gets to keep his starting position for the main event today. Behind both of them is Cale Yarborough, starting third. Going for his 4th straight title in 1979, Cale has shown speed all week, but has been just behind Buddy and Donnie by a tick. But if anybody can get that extra inch out of a car, it's Cale Yarborough. Nicknamed Old Hickory, Cale was a tough-as-nails driver who had a record of getting everything out of his equipment, regardless of the budget behind it. Starting in the mid-70s, he's joined forces with legendary driver-turned-car owner Junior Johnson, and won his first ever title in 1976. He's become the first ever three-peat champ in NASCAR's top division, and in 1979, he's poised to win an unthinkable 4 in a row. Despite being just off the pace from the 28 of Buddy Baker and the 1 of Donnie Allison, his odds are good. He's won the race twice before in 1968 and 1977, but his biggest goal is to overtake the king in number of Daytona 500 crowns.
That's a big
Richard
gap.
Petty sits on 5 Daytona 500 wins, a record for the
In
time.
years.
However, the king begins his journey today from the 13th position and has basically been a non-factor all week. Richard can shoot for a top 5, but no one expects more than that from him today. These 4 guys, though, all have something in common that will give them an edge over the field today. They are driving the fabled Oldsmobile 442 Cutlass Supreme. A holdover from the 1977 season, the Olds Cutlass is a bad, fast car that can cut through the air like nothing else. On the big tracks of Daytona, Talladega, and Michigan, no other make or model can rival its aerodynamics. With its sloped front that produces more downforce and front grip, combined with a sloped rear cabin that gently brings air to its rear spoiler, it's not only fast but surprisingly stable. And not just on its own, but in the draft as well. Suffice it to say, if you want to win today, you had better be driving an Oldsmobile, and everybody knows it. 21 of the 41 starters here today are running an Oldsmobile.
Damn.
Back to the race. On lap 15, the race finally goes green, and Donnie Allison dives to the inside and puts Buddy Baker behind him. After 4 laps, though, Cale Yarborough would take the lead, and then Benny Parsons, and then Bobby Allison, Donnie's brother. The lead would turn into a revolving door of sorts, as we would see 36 lead changes on the day. Now, you might think that these two, Donnie and Cale, battled up front all day based on this last lap pass then, right? Well, that iconic backstretch battle almost never happened at all. As a matter of fact, it's a miracle they were anywhere near the front at the end of the race. On lap 30, Donnie, Bobby, and Cale are battling for the lead, running 1, 2, 3 respectively, when Bobby gets just a tick loose and Donnie dips just a little too low coming out of turn 2. The two collect one another and Bobby slams into Donnie hard enough to knock him into the air. They slide through the mud and Bobby hits the inside bank hard with the rear of his vehicle, but Donnie misses any secondary damage. Meanwhile, Cale ducks low and slides through the grass to avoid them, which he does. He doesn't get a scratch on his vehicle. Unfortunately, that rain we've been talking about has turned the backstretch grass into a swamp. All 3 drivers will have to be pushed out of the mud and lose a lap in the process. It'll take a lot of hard work to get back up to where they were. Thankfully, we've got nearly 170 more laps to get it done. Buddy Baker, the favorite to win it all today, would pull into the pits during the ensuing caution, running on 7 cylinders. As the team works on the car, the engine just gets worse and then completely fails. As it would turn out, those first 15 laps under yellow would be the only laps Buddy Baker would lead all day. The odds-on favorite today is out before even a quarter of the race is completed. The race restarts with Neil Bonnet.
So, back then, I don't know if they're able to do that now, or if they were able to do it back then. Are they able to change the... No, that's a stupid question. I was going to ask, were they able to change the engine, but replacing the engine is super duper hard in a regular car, so I'm pretty sure it would be hard in a NASCAR racing car, right? I'm pretty sure that was like a stupid question.
At the helm this time, and he and AJ Foyt immediately go to war. After 10 laps, though, a rookie is here to spoil the party. Some guy named Dale Earnhardt passes both of them. David Hobbs up in the booth thinks that Dale might be a lap down, but as he and the CBS crew go over their notes, they determine that, yeah, that rookie in the blue and yellow number 2 just passed one of NASCAR's young guns and one of IndyCar's greatest drivers of all time in the Daytona 500. His father, Ralph Earnhardt, was a well-known short tracker in the Southeast that dominated on the small tracks, but his son is here fighting for the lead at one of NASCAR's biggest. Although he's made just a few starts in the years prior to this race, 1979 will be Dale's first year of full-time competition, and thus he's in the fight for the Rookie of the Year award. In 1979 was arguably the most stacked rookie class in NASCAR history. Dale will do battle for the award with the likes of Harry Gant, Jeff Bodine, and Terry Labonte. The class will go on to win a combined 134 races and compete for championships for decades to come. The rivalries most talked about in NASCAR lore from the 80s and 90s can trace their origins to this race right here, where the 4 will compete against one another for the first time on the same asphalt. This is where it all started, and just for a handful of laps, Dale leads not only them but the entire field. He'll lead 10 laps on the day. Astonishingly, just after the halfway point on lap 108, Donnie Allison has clawed his way back to the front and retakes the lead. He'll mix it up with Earnhardt for a bit before leading a big chunk of laps, as Cale Yarborough has now also joined the fray. The laps click off and the lead swaps hands another 9 times before on lap 178, Donnie takes it for good thanks to a wicked fast pit stop, but Cale sizes him up and slips in behind him as he exits the pits. Donnie and Cale run 1-2 for the remainder of the race, while Cale patiently waits for 22 laps as he makes several feints and attempts to take the lead, but to no avail. Cale's coming off of winning his 3rd consecutive championship, and he sees an opportunity to win his third Daytona 500 too. He may never top the King Richard Petty's 6 titles, but he might just bite into his 5 Daytona 500 crowns here today. Donnie, however, has never won the Great American Race and looks to be the second Allison in a row to win it, as his brother Bobby won it last year. On the last lap, Cale finally has his timing down, and he gets a big run coming off of turn 2. All the way up on the front stretch, Richard Petty has just maneuvered his way in front of Darrell Waltrip and AJ Foyt to take third place, and the race is now on. Petty has only led 11 laps today, and most of those came from the result of pit stop cycles. He's been in the top 10 all day, but no one has picked him to win this race, and for good reason. Petty spent most of the 1978 season being injured, and actually went winless. After the offseason, everybody figured Petty would use speed weeks to get himself used to being back in the saddle again. And during the Clash and qualifiers, that seemed to be the case. But thanks to some savvy pit calls and a fast Oldsmobile, Petty finds himself in third as the leaders have just wrecked out half a lap ahead. CBS's cameras scramble to pick up third through fifth as every available shot had been directed at Cale and Donnie. Just as the trio sails into turn 4, the cameras find them. Darrell Waltrip tries to set up a pass and makes a bonsai move to the inside of Petty on the apron, but to no avail. Petty wins an unthinkable 6th Daytona 500, and in probably the most unconventional way, too. The King is not used to having a win just handed to him like that. Domination has been his calling card up to this point. The crowd of 120,000 on hand goes absolutely ballistic. CBS's microphones can barely pick up the roaring of the engines coming across the finish line over the thundering crowd. And as Petty completes his cool-down lap and rolls down pit road en route to victory lane, the camera feed switches to the Goodyear blimp, showing something going on the backstretch. Ken Squire up in the booth makes the call.
And there's a fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison. The tempers overflowing. They're angry. They know they have lost. And what a bitter defeat.
Bobby Allison, who just finished 11th, has pulled beside the wrecked former leaders and is now in the midst of a full-blown 2 versus 1 fist fight with his brother against Cale Yarborough. The CBS crew is in a panic, trying to figure out if they should show the fight or not. They change over to a ground-level shot just in time to watch someone swing a helmet at someone else. The camera doesn't catch a whole lot of it, but the pictures from the photographers on the infield make it all the way to the front page of the New York Times sports section on Monday, and they tell the tale. Donnie and Cale had taken their helmets off to use as weapons against the other, and Bobby had grabbed onto Cale's foot at some point during the scuffle and put him on the ground. At that point, the track workers break up the fight. Now, all of this is amazing. There was great racing, lots of lead changes, new faces up front, a battle for the ages, an unforgettable last lap pass, the king of the sport adding on to his already widely believed to be unbeatable record, and a bare-knuckle fist fight at the end of all of it. CBS could have not asked for a better race to play host to the first ever live broadcast of a 500-mile race. Going into this weekend, CBS had expected ratings to be pretty sizable. It was a few weeks after the Super Bowl, and there were no other TV programs worth talking about that day, and certainly no other sporting events going on in mid-February. But as Lady Luck would have it, that day a massive blizzard has hammered the East Coast from Georgia to Maine. The rains earlier today were part of the southern arm of that storm front. Everyone in CBS's prime demographic markets are snowed into their houses with nothing to do except to watch this oddity down in Daytona Beach, Florida. The execs for CBS had estimated when the ratings came in they'd get between 2 and 3 million viewers. They got 6.5. CBS, please hold. CBS, please hold.
What
CBS,
even
please
is NASCAR? Like, what does that even stand for?
CBS, please
Did
hold.
they do that in every
CBS,
race?
please hold.
What was
CBS,
that? That
please
was
hold.
awesome.
CBS,
You said
please
this is
hold.
in the South.
CBS,
Why don't we get
please
this in the
hold.
Northeast?
CBS,
Who
please
in the
hold.
world is Cale
CBS, please
Yarborough?
hold.
I thought this was
CBS,
just a
please
bunch
hold.
of dumb
CBS,
rednecks
please
driving
hold.
around in circles.
CBS,
That was
please
fucking
hold.
great.
CBS,
Do they
please
fight at
hold.
the end of every race?
CBS,
Is that like a
please
thing?
hold.
Y'all
CBS,
broadcasting
please
the
hold.
next race, right?
CBS, please
When's the
hold.
next race?
CBS,
Y'all are doing
please
the next
hold.
Daytona 500, right? That was awesome.
We got to do the next race. And so they did. After being inundated with calls after the race from people who couldn't believe what they had just watched, CBS broadcast the Daytona 500 live flag to flag every year until 2001. Demand for more and more NASCAR races to be shown on TV rose and rose, and for the first time in its history, NASCAR went fully national. Whatever this weird southern motorsport was, people had to have more of it. This one single race put NASCAR on the map, and we haven't looked back since. Anyway, I'm Slapshoes. Thanks for watching, and y'all take it easy.
I blame number 11 because I don't know what you guys call it, but you know, like the side of like the track when number one was was basically on the track, and then number 11 basically it seemed like was off the track a little bit. I don't know what he was doing. It seemed like he was purposely trying to cut him off. That's the way it seemed in my eyes. But, you know, I'm new to this, so I might be wrong, but that's the way that it seemed. It seemed like, I don't know. Comment down below and let me know who you think was at fault. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, fam.